Hi everyone, and welcome to this coding tutorial. So this is an opportunity for us to focus on coding dialogue and run through a couple of examples together to hopefully get used to the idea of using a template to code different categories of dialogue before you do so in your own inquiry. You should have already watched the sections tutorial video above, and that describes what coding is, why we use it, as well as some of the different types of observations that you can use during your own inquiry. If you haven't yet watched that video, I recommend that you do so first. So you can just pause this one, go back, watch that one, and once you've done so, revisit this one, and then we'll try out a few examples together. So your objective for this coding tutorial is to really just familiarize yourself with the different templates and tools and coding process as well by doing some examples so that you can really just see what it looks like in practice. I promise that coding is one of those things that sounds and looks more complicated than it really is, but applying a coding scheme is really just a way to track dialogue that is happening in your setting to better understand what's working and where gaps may exist ultimately in order to improve your own practice. So here's an overview of the coding scheme, which you'll probably have seen before. These are the different codes or categories of dialogue, and you should use these and review these different categories to see which ones align with what you want to focus on in your inquiry. I'm going to run through the first 5 categories there before we get into the examples of how to code. The first dialogue category is build on ideas, which is when a participant builds on, elaborates, clarifies, or comments on their own or others' ideas. Learners might elaborate or evaluate or improve their own idea or someone else's through adding more information or also clarifying what someone else has said. Normally, this type of dialogue happens following another learner's contribution, and ideally, it should also happen spontaneously without students waiting for the teacher's invitation to do so. Some examples of this code are included on the screen here. Mary's idea made me think about why the character would do that. My idea was similar to Ahmed's. I wrote that flowers would make the best present. I've got an idea that nobody has mentioned yet. What I meant earlier was... This second example is linked to the previous one. So the category invite to build on ideas is when a teacher or another student explicitly asks someone to build on another person's idea. Some examples of this code are included on the screen here, like, what do you think of Ava's idea? Do you agree or disagree with what Chris said? Is your idea similar to Manuel's? I would like you all to think of an example that hasn't been mentioned yet. The third category is challenge, which focuses on the ways in which students question and disagree with ideas that they hear. The important thing to note here is that not all ideas are equal, and so challenging ideas encourages learners to consider which ideas have the most merit. And it's also very important, very critical to model how to challenge politely and respectfully, because it is the ideas that should be challenged and not the person. And ideally also reasons should be given for challenges as well. Some forms of challenge simply stops the dialogue right in its tracks rather than extends it. There are a few examples of challenge on the screen here. You can see like, I disagree, or are you sure? And then this slide expands on what I was just saying as well about how to challenge in a way that really supports learning. So the example on the left here is when challenging doesn't support learning. The teacher asks, what is your answer? Ollie, a student, replies, my main answer is 2/12, which is the same as 1/6. The teacher says, 1/6 isn't right. Ollie responds, isn't it? The teacher says, no. Ollie stops and whispers, and then there's a long pause. So we can really see here that Ollie probably loses confidence to carry on and gets no informative feedback or encouragement from the teacher at all. So the example of the right, as you can see, is much different than that. The teacher says, I'm talking about having and we're sharing by 4. Why? Is there a relationship between those two that we already know? Nadia responds, because 4 is in the 2 times table. The teacher responds, I'm not sure how it's going to help us here in sharing by 4. How could we share by 4 using halving? Zach responds by halving twice. So in this example, you can see that the teacher challenges the student's response respectfully by expanding and carefully rephrasing the question. The fourth dialogue category is make reasoning explicit. And this is where when students explain, justify, or develop their own ideas or others' ideas. And this can be in response to an invitation to do so or not. Some examples of this are included on the screen, such as I think, because, if this happened, then, and so on. And the last category of dialogue that we'll review before getting into our examples of coding is invite reasoning, which is an invitation to others to explain or justify their own or others' ideas. So keywords for this category might include why or how, or can you explain your thinking further? Okay, so now that we've reviewed those sort of the top 5 categories of dialogue, or at least, sorry, the first 5 categories of dialogue, let's try out some examples of coding for them. Once you have selected your own categories or category of dialogue that you want to focus on in your inquiry, you'll need to collect your data. So I'm going to play a video recording from a mathematics lesson of a year 6 class in England, and I want you to pretend that you are conducting an inquiry into how often students in this mathematics class are using the dialogue categories of building on, inviting building on, and challenging. Below this video, I've included a Word document titled Video A Coding Tutorial Document, and you should download that now. So you can pause this video to download it on your computer and just read through the instructions at the very top of that document, and then you can click play once you have it up and ready to use on your computer and you've familiarized yourself with how to use it as well. Okay, so you should now have that document open and ready to use. When I play the video, please use that document to record any examples of the codes that I mentioned. So whenever you can identify building on, inviting building on, and challenging, you will need to record it. I'll play the video via my recording software in order to keep this tutorial as just a one video resource. But if you can't hear it, just pause this and follow the link below this video to watch it on your own instead. I've listed the video as video A for coding tutorial, so you can just click that link and then it will just play in your browser instead of just going through and watching it on this particular resource.
Okay, I've got some little cards for you, and I want us to put them on our number line. This number line says 0 kilograms and 1 kilogram. So we're going to come up and stick them on our number line where we think they go. So my first one is 300 grams. Who thinks they know where that might go on my number line? Aria, come and explain why you've put it where you've put it.
Halfway between 0 kilograms and 1 kilogram, there'll be 500 grams, and I think that 300 kilograms would be closer to the 500 grams, so I think that's where it should.
Would it be helpful to mark on halfway?
Yeah.
Pop on halfway then. How else could we be really specific about where 300 grams could go? Matthew?
If you looked at it, 300 grams would be a lot closer to 500, as Aria said. Then it would be to 0 kilograms. So it would be further. I think it'd be further along.
So you're disagreeing with where it's going at the moment. You'd like it moved closer to 500.
I think I agree with that.
You agree with Matthew. Go on then, move it if you want to. Okay, Dillis.
I think it will be because 0 is bigger than 0. Is 0 bigger than 0.9? Would it be before the 0 kilograms.
Okay, good question, Dillis. I like your questions this morning. What do we think? Which one is bigger, 0 or 0.9? Cody?
0.9.
Because?
Because 0 would also be 0 grams, but 0.9 kilograms would be 90 grams, and 900 grams, and 900 grams is bigger than 0 grams.
Okay, Dillis, in this number there is 0. There's no units. If I put a decimal point here, there'd be no tenths. This number is bigger because I've got a 9 in the tenths. Michael?
I also got confused with what Dillis did, but the only reason it confuses you, it won't be confusing if you convert it to grams.
Okay.
Because right now it looks like it would actually be smaller, way smaller than 1 kilogram. It actually looks like it will be closer to 0 kilograms.
I agree. And the problem we've got is we've got this one recorded in grams and this one recorded in kilograms, which is why it could be confusing.
Yeah.
Which is why it was really good that Ashton said this is 900 grams. So if this is 300 grams, halfway is 500 grams. I know 900 grams is nearly 1,000 grams. It's a really good tactic, Michael. Thank you for spotting that. Really good tactic to convert them to the same unit. So this is 300 grams, this is 500 grams or halfway. This is 900 grams. I'm going to write 900 grams underneath it. And that, Dillis, might help you spot it.
Okay, so take a look at your answers. Were you able to identify different categories of dialogue within this clip? What was particularly challenging about this exercise? And did you have to play it more than once? A challenge for live coding is that it's easy to miss things. You may want to pause the conversation to really think. Or were you actually able to capture everything that you wanted to capture and you think that you really got a good overview of what was being said? This might influence your preference for whether you decide to live code in your own setting versus recording it through audio or video or both. Well, hopefully both. It wouldn't make much sense just to do it by video, but you would do that and then you would later transcribe it, like you'll see in that activity sheet that's been transcribed based off of a video and audio recording for you to then code. So, depending on what you're looking at, how much time you have and permissions for recording in your setting, you can make a decision that makes the most sense for you. So here are the completed codes. Now, I really love this example of classroom dialogue. We see and hear the teacher really clearly explain the activity to the learners, which was for them to place cards with weights expressed in either grams or kilograms on a number line. She invited students to place cards on the line and to include why they placed it there. The teacher continues to encourage students to develop their ideas and respond to others' ideas. She also builds on others' contributions, like in turn 277 that you can see there, the last line on the right column. So take a look at these codes and compare them to what you have recorded. You might want to pause this video to do so, but are there any differences there, and why do you think that's the case? And just to also say that the other reason that I really like using this example is because it showcases the potential of having an object for co-building. In this case, it was the number line. And the learners had to annotate and complete this collectively. And it wasn't about who was right, but rather about contributing in order to achieve the common collective goal. So it wasn't just the teacher facilitating the dialogue. The task itself really helped create an environment for rich dialogue to take place. There are more observations as well included in that activity document at the very bottom for your review that indicate other areas of dialogic interaction from the clip, if you would like to review that in a bit more detail. Okay, so we're going to do another example together, but instead of coding whole class dialogue, we're going to practice coding small group dialogue. We're going to try to look specifically for the category make reasoning explicit. So this is when you hear explaining, justifying, or using possibility thinking relating to one's own or another's ideas. I'll play the video and you'll need to download and use either tool 2C or 2D or even both if you feel ambitious, which I've linked to underneath this video. They're Word documents like the previous example for you to work on at the same time as watching the video. Tool 2C, which you can see on this screen as well, that's just a checklist for individual students in group work where you would input their names, and I just put where they were sitting in here for convenience, and then you would tick whether or not you observed their use of whatever category of dialogue that you're exploring. And in this case, it's just making reasoning explicit. And you'll also give the student an additional rating of overall participation from 1 to 3, where 1 would be low participation, 2 would be medium, and 3 is high participation. Then tool 2D on the right there, that's a group rating scale from 1 to 3, which records the general nature of dialogue in a group activity with a focus, in this case, on reasoning. In this rating, a score of 1 would mean a low frequency of reasoning within the conversation as a whole, 2 is medium frequency, and 3 is high frequency. And then you just add in any and all comments in the third column in case that there's anything noteworthy around the rating. If they're indicative of progress since the last time the rating was undertaken, for example, you would include notes in that comment section. I'll just caution before we continue with this example that these checklists aren't meant to provide exact measurements, but rather they offer a very quick and easy way to observe and record differences between individual student participation. So you can pause the video now to download and familiarize yourself with the 2 tools that you'll be using, and you'll find those underneath this video. Okay, so you should have your tools ready, either one or both of them. And for further context, this video shows children in year 2 completing a tangram, and then they discuss a philosophical question together. I'll now play the video, and same as before, if the sound is poor or the visual clarity isn't what you'd like, there is a link below this video that you can just access it separately on your browser if you prefer.
Let's have different. Let's have both. So do 2 each toe. Now it's my turn. Yeah. So if that blue goes there, and that goes there. No. Wait, then that all goes. No. Look at that. If you look at the picture. Oh yeah. Goes there. It's a dip! Yeah, but I don't really like these things.
Okay. Have you finished already? Are you happy with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. You did that very quickly, I have to say. That was really impressive.
Easy.
Oh, was it easy, was it, Connor?
Last time we kept getting bits wrong.
Yeah, like
That was there, that should go there, no, let's move that around, that goes there, no. Yeah. That's wrong again, no. You still film.
I am still filming. Do you think it went better this time than it did last time? Yeah. Yeah? Okay, well I've got another job for you. So, I would like you to have a bit of a discussion with each other. So I've got a question for you, and I'd like you to just discuss it and tell each other what you think, okay? There you go, so that's the question. Does one of you want to read it out?
So who's doing that? Let's just say all of us. Is it better to make one person very happy or 10 people a little bit happy? I think 10 people a 10 happy. Yeah, because if you make them a little bit happy. Oh, we did this before. 10 people, they're a little bit happy. But if you make they won't get all really like miserable. You know, like loads of people miserable and one bit happy. Like they might not go. They might not go like this. If you make 10 people really. Because otherwise, some of them could be really miserable and one could be really happy. So we could make, if we made 10 people a little bit happy, it would have no miserable people. Yeah. And if you want one very happy, everyone will be, oh, why is she making her happy, not me.
Yeah, that would just make them really grumpy.
Yeah. And then they'll never ever play with the person who made someone happy again. Oh, that's quite a sad story. So that's why 10 people are a little bit happy. Yes.
So how did you find that exercise with those two different rating scales? Was coding small group work more challenging than the whole class dialogue? Less challenging? Why do you think so? I think the general consensus is that the rating scale with a bucket of 1 to 3 is easier than applying the lettered coding scheme, but I'm always curious if others found something different. It's important to note that for these group rating scales, they can also be used in tandem with a narrative report, where you capture some of the nuanced contextual parts of the classroom ethos and environment. And you can also ask students what they thought about the dialogue, which can help capture some of those surrounding nuances as well, such as asking them, how well they worked together, if everyone participated, and if hearing others' ideas changed their minds. There are also self-rating tools, which are really great to use as well with your students, where they give themselves a rating for a number of statements. So basically a lot of different options for you to choose from for your own inquiry. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. Take a look underneath this video for more support on choosing appropriate tools for your setting and your inquiry focus specifically. You'll need to think about whether you want to code live as the dialogue is taking place in real time, or if you want to audio or video record it to listen or watch later. Have a look at all the coding templates available as well to help guide your plans. There's lots there for you to look through, so I'll leave it there for now, but thanks for watching.